3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to your new favorite podcast, the podcast for Southwest ISD. This is Scoreboard. I'm your man, Brandon Big Papi Medina, talking all things Dragons and Titans and more. Oh my, we have a big week of sports. We have, starting off the slates, we have a lot of volleyball. We have two big football games that are going to be very interesting, as well as those volleyball games. We also have some cross-country meets, and everything is being set up. We are on the road. It is October. It is spooky season. We are on the road to the Fire and Armor Bowl to close out the season between the Dragons and the Titans in football, so it's going to be a crazy one. We want to go ahead and wish all of our cross-country boys and girls great luck. They are kicking off things as far as the week goes in sports over at Medina Valley. You're going to hear about Medina Valley more later, but Medina Valley is hosting that one. It's going to be a big cross-country meet, so we want to wish them the best. We had athletic director Peter Wagner on the show last week, and he said they have some massive talent at these cross-country teams on both Southwest and Southwest Legacy. So we're excited about that one. So we will kick off the show with volleyball, which has been, as interesting as it gets. Listen, volleyball's no joke over here at Southwest ISD. And when we get into these matchups, you're going to see exactly why. So Legacy is going to be taking on Harlandale away on October 14th after a tight matchup that didn't go their way against South San. We know those South San Bobcats and Southwest Legacy and Southwest High School for years have had a little bit of that rivalry. They're both big Southside schools, but they also will follow that matchup with another big game against Medina Valley, where they will be away as well. So two big away battles for the Southwest Legacy volleyball team. They've struggled as of late, but I think they're really picking it up as far as scoring-wise. They narrowly lost against South San. And so I think against Harlandale is going to be a big test, and then you're going to be battle-tested to go and take on Medina Valley next up. So they're ready. I'm excited for them to see what they can do. So Southwest High School will be challenging Southside in a battle for the South, if you will, in volleyball, as well as South San next week. So Southwest will have the opportunity to go ahead and get a little bit of a punch and revenge back for the Southwest Legacy Titan team when they face South San next week. So both are powerhouses on the south side of the city, of course. Both matchups look to be a fun challenge for the Dragon squad. As it stands, people, Southwest Dragons not looking too shabby. The Dragons have a 28-8 record overall and are 8-2 in district, so the playoffs are looming. I'm excited because right now Southwest is coming off a 3-0 win against McCullum, complete shutout, big game, big victory. Going in to face a team like Southside is going to be tough, but then you have Southside right after. I think this team could possibly be 10-2 when we're talking again next week. So big time for volleyball with the playoffs looming. So now it is time to get into some football. You know we got to get into some football. It's a big week. So this might be a quicker show, but I wanted to make sure we get it out to you guys. Overall in football, you're going to look at the Legacy Titans taking on Southside, who is clearly an opponent fighting their way into our schedule more than once over the next week. Legacy, as it stands right now, guys, is 3-1, right? They've been very good, very dominant as far as overall as a squad. They have a really talented roster, and they're coming off a dominant performance against Laredo Martin. Again, last week we had on our boy Peter Wagner, athletic director. He predicted a 45-7 victory. I told him, Peter, you're crazy. You're crazy. How much pressure do you want to put on this coaching staff and these players? You're nuts. Well, he wasn't too far off, everybody. Let me just tell you, because big shout out to Peter Wagner, who is also my coach in football. So Coach Wagner, big shout out to him, man, because Legacy absolutely demolished Martin by winning the game 41-13. You heard that right, people. Take that in real quick. 41-13. Tough game for Laredo Martin, but a big win for Southwest Legacy. So as it stands, they're facing Southside, who's going to be a really tough challenge, everybody. Overall, the Southside Cardinals are 6-1. They are 5-0 in district. So you're talking about a team who definitely is ready to go out, win district, continue to compete, continue to fire on all margins. And right now, as it stands, they're scoring 35 points a game, 198.7 yards per game, it's going to be interesting because Legacy has not allowed an opponent to score over 27. That's happened once. It's never really that high. They usually have either really close games or blowouts like we saw against Laredo Martin for 41-13, where they just won at their homecoming last week. Legacy will be away Southside at Southside for this Friday night matchup, so that should be another thing thrown into that matchup as far as something to look out for. Legacy, as it stands, you have Fernando Flores had a huge game last week, but he's averaging 143 rushing yards per game. Fabian Ramos is a dominant player right there at quarterback, dual threat, having 205 passing yards per game and 286 total yards. And then you have Nathaniel Ibarra with 8.5 tackles per game. So big stuff going on as far as overall the way this team plays. They have a guy at Southside named Matthew Castañeda. I said called. He's not called as his name. Matthew Castañeda, who looks really, really good as a running back and overall as a player. And so I think that's something to definitely, look out for and see how they can stop that run game and maybe expose the passing game a bit. It doesn't look like they pass much, if often. I will say Southside now, for whatever reason, has become a big focus in the sports world of San Antonio, simply for the fact that Southside High School, for those of you who don't know, their previous quarterback, I believe, last year sat out his senior season because he got the starting job at the University of Nebraska. So he's a Cornhusker, a major thing that happened here on the south side of San Antonio overall, but a big thing for Southside High School. So when you look at that, that's probably one of the big reasons I know that a lot of people are starting to keep track of Southside, and obviously for good reason. People, they're 6-1 overall, 5-0 in district. So they have not at all shied away from competition. They're really good. Legacy is also really good. Like I said, 41-13 against Martin at their homecoming. What a homecoming win. What a blast. So we'll continue talking about that as we come back with you next week. We'll talk about what happened. Hopefully we can see Legacy get this win. If Legacy gets this win, this is a huge win. This is a huge confidence booster as we continue on to moving on into the playoffs. Hopefully, in a few weeks, over a month's time, I believe, or so. And then you have the Fire and Armor Bowl with Legacy Titans and the Southwest Dragons. That could be a very big game, people. Both are 3-1 in district, tied for fourth place. That could be a very, very big game. And so, that's going to be November 4th. You do not want to miss that one, people. That's going to be a crazy one. So let's talk about the Southwest Dragons. They're taking on Medina Valley. They are coming off of back-to-back wins against Wynn and Laredo Nixon, as well as an extra week of rest due to their bye week, right? So they're going to be taking on Medina Valley. Medina Valley, guess who they just beat? Also, Wynn and Laredo Nixon. That's just how the schedule fell. It's just how the cards were dealt. But both have just completely dominated over the past 2 weeks or the past two games. Southwest, however, has had the extra week of rest. How do they come out? This is a big one. You know what I mean? This is a big test for this team, for their mentality as we continue on in the season. You're sitting at 3-1 in district. 4-1 sounds very nice, especially if Legacy is getting the challenge of Southside. If Legacy comes out 4-1 and Southwest comes out 4-1, we're going to have ourselves a blast November 4th when it comes to watching that Fire and Armor game. So right now, like I said, Southwest is 3-3 overall, 3-1 in district, tied with Legacy. So that Fire and Armor Bowl could have some big implications for their district spot. But this game is going to be a nail-biter. They are so similar in every way, Southwest and Medina Valley. I want to call it Freaky Friday, right? Have a little bit of a name for it, but I don't think that's the correct one, because that's when Jamie Lee Curtis and them switched bodies. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they're twins. They're similar. They're the Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, whatever you want to call it. But this is going to be an incredible game. Medina Valley, Southwest, very close as far as distance. There's people who are right on the line, who live on the line of going to Medina Valley and coming to Southwest. So they're not they're a school that's close in proximity. They're a school that's had big victories over Southwest ISD. We've also had our own fair share, but there's definitely a minor rivalry here. When you look at the stats, man, are they close. So you have Anthony Guerrero over there in Medina Valley, 146.3 rushing yards per game. The dude is dangerous with his feet. However, you also have at Southwest a guy that I've talked about since the first podcast we did, Brian Lisama, you have 112.5 rushing yards per game. The dude has had massive games, had a huge game against Wynn. And then you have PJ Ramos, only 75 yards per game. But then you have Xavier Gonzalez on their side, only 81 yards per game. So you have two teams that are going to run and gun. They're going to absolutely push the ball forward. A lot of rushing yards, I'm assuming, in this game. A lot of rushing attempts. This is going to be one in the trenches. So if I'm a coach or if I'm talking to any coaches or whatever the case, you got to get your men ready to go to battle when it comes to that offensive line and defensive line. That's going to be a game that is won in the trenches. Both of these teams like to run the ball. Both of these teams, if they're not running the ball, I think get thrown off a little bit. And so for me, I'm very comfortable with PJ Ramos. The dude can definitely run too. So I'm happy with that. But then you look on the defensive side, they have Manny Riojas over at Medina Valley, 8.8 tackles per game. Very, very high. However, Southwest, we got our own, man. Blake Chester, 9.3 tackles per game. So, I mean, you have so many different ways this game could go. Just understand this game is going to be the tightest game on the schedule as far as how similar these two teams are. But I do think Legacy is going to give Southside some problems. Southside is undefeated. Legacy's looking to go 4-1. The Dragons are also looking to go 4-1. However, Medina Valley, I believe, is 3-4. So they've lost one more, which should give the Dragons some confidence as they're coming off of their bye week. So that's going to be the weekend slate of sports here in Southwest ISD. Let us know, who do you think is going to be winning these games? Who do you think needs to have a victory to look forward into the playoffs for volleyball, for football? It is officially spooky season. Let's not get spooked from Southside or Medina Valley. Let's not get scared away from the matchups because they're going to be a fun one. And I think both of these teams are absolutely ready to rumble. This is Scoreboard. I'm your man, Brandon Medina. Thank you for joining me again. I super, super duper appreciate it. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend and week. We'll be back next week, hopefully with a special guest. Wink, wink. But this is Scoreboard nonetheless. We'll talk to you guys soon. And like we always say, we are Southwest.